What's going on, y'all? It's J Smo Reviews here, back at it again with another video, man. Bringing you guys today kind of an open discussion type of video here again. Talk about an interview that dropped recently from the Uppercut podcast. Shout out Tiger doing the main interviews on there, and his whole team. He's been doing a lot of great interviews with the New York legends. I think he's had clips over there. Head Ice and Mook did a hilarious, sit-down interview together. I think Mook did his own interview, so plenty of good content. And then yesterday, speaking of New York history and battle rap, he gets a 1 hour plus sit-down interview with Smack. And listen, whenever the URL owners, Beasley and Smack, Chico's never on camera, but whenever we get Smack and Bees on cam, people tune in. There's certain questions they want answered, certain things they just want to talk about. You don't get the owners outside that often. And I think what separates this interview from some of the others is, hey, listen, man, he was pressing Smack a bit with them questions. I mean, they're tough questions. He was really wanting answers for him, kind of reiterated on a couple, and I felt like Smack stood his ground and gave a lot of authentic and at times kind of energized answers, right? So a lot of name-specific topics that we got some answers on, and that you usually wouldn't expect with how quiet URL usually is in the face of questions, controversy, any of that. They've kept it. They've usually just stayed silent and worked through it. And I think in some situations it's good not to give something air. That's not just a business thing. That's a life thing. Not everything needs your attention. But when you're this big of a company, when you do lead the culture, being full radio silence doesn't exactly work either. So it's good to see Smack in front of the camera, an owner in front of the camera, answering some questions blunt. And it's not that you're always going to like the answer, but you need answers. Some people just want an answer one way or another. They can deal with not liking it or liking it, but if you're completely silent, you're giving the people nothing to work off on your side of the story on some of these things. So thought it was a great interview, and we're just going to go through the topics and talk about, kind of how I feel or kind of interpret some of these answers on some of the questions that he was more specific about, and some of the topics that, it kind of still gets a bit of a political answer. There's a ton of topics in the interview to cover, but the first ones we're going to start out with are like the name-specific battler-specific combos. I'm not going to be going chronologically, right? But the first one to cover is the biggest topic. It's the one that gets asked the most, and that is K-Shine. When is K-Shine in a battle? Everyone wants to see K-Shine battle. And this one, out of all the topics, is also the one that's probably like the most public in terms of information. Both sides have been pretty detailed about what it is. It's just a matter of kind of who you agree with, unlike some other situations where you got to fill in the blanks for yourself, or some information is kind of unknown. And it's a contractual dispute of Shine getting paid in monthly installments in advance for a 5-battle deal. It's not your traditional deposit back end, getting paid up front and then doing the battles kind of later and as they go. And it was X amount of dollars for a 5-battle contract. You get to the Daylight battle, which is the second or third battle in the contract, and Shine's ready. He's ready to go. Daylight does some Daylight shit. Completely out of his hands, completely out of URL's hands. Classic Daylight. And that kind of starts this whole dispute of like the contract situation, because even though that battle gets canceled, there is no the league still doesn't have the fulfilled battle. So even though Shine prepped and he did his job in a sense, that does not count as a battle in the contract. Same with the Jackboy main battle, prepped, ready to go, last battle of his contract in this particular situation, and then that battle ends up not going down because of Jackboy's health issues. And the big dispute is Shine feeling like since he prepped and it's his opponents who backed out, it was out of his control, that strikes down one of the battles in the contract, while URL is saying, hey, we paid you in advance for 5 battles. We have not gotten 5 battles worth of content. We still need, I believe it's 2 battles from you. And it's one of those where my stance hasn't changed. I feel terrible for Shine in both those situations. With the Jackboy one, really is nobody's fault. Health situations happen. And then as for Daylight, regular Daylight shit. And that's kind of what starts it all, completely out of everyone's hands. But at the end of the day, you got paid in advance for 5 battles. 5 battles need to happen. It's just contractually what it says. I feel like now you get to a point where it's even been said, I think Shine himself said, URL offered him a whole new bag, scrapped that, a whole new bag for a new battle, because the thing is, the battles that he's got to fulfill, he wouldn't be getting paid for. You know what I'm saying? I'm assuming he's been paid some 5-figure sum, for the battles already, but if he battles, he wants another back end. So they even offer him a new contract for a new battle, and he turned that down, saying it's beyond rap now, I'm just not going to rap there, it's personal, and that's what it's turned into, is a big pride thing. At the end of the day, the man owes him battles. It's just what it is, and that's why you're going to keep seeing him not battle, is because he does owe those battles. And just because the situation is fucked up, because it is fucked up, but just because it is, and it's not advantageous for you, does not change the fact that you were paid in advance for battles that just haven't been completed yet. Them backing out, unless that was put in the contract that makes that null and void, it is not a rule that you can make on the fly because the logic seems fair. It's not fair. It's what you signed for. So it sucks. We need K-Shine back. It's not a matter of just want. He's too good of a battler that is still obviously could be very active and being great. He's too great to not be out here battling. But at the end of the day, the man's contract is the man's contract, and we're going to talk in circles until either those battles get fulfilled or something, or the money is returned that was paid for in advance for said battles. But, you know, that's my opinion on it. And I mean, to an extent, it's really what Smack said, talking about, he said there is fulfillments, there's obligations that need to be met, and that is referring to that. It is one big circle to either 2 battles of footage or 2 battles worth of money being given back. It is quite literally that simple. And then from there, you get to the easy to block captain situation that was asked about, and this one is the most telling because, you know, spoken in a riddle in a sense, but if you're just listening, you know, you could hear what he's saying when he's asked, why is Easy not there? You're going to work with Easy. What's that situation? Smack just kind of says, I'm a man of integrity. And when I see moves that go against that, much longer explanation, but when I see people whose energy is like that, shout out to them, but I need things that align with me and my morals of respect and integrity. He said a few times, kind of hinting at, hey, that Easy did something that, in his opinion, showed a lack of integrity. You know what I'm saying? The way that he departed from URL, or showed a lack of respect or morals. And that's just a situation where, at this point, with how much they've went at each other in public, I mean, the Shine one, even though he did tell Smack, go fuck himself on his birthday, that's kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But with the Easy and Smack thing, I don't think that there's the history there like there is with some of those other legends. And this just seems like one that we're never going to see a reconciliation. You know, no matter how much I think Easy joked about it, but then turned around and said I would never, you know, for real, like end up on URL, talking crazy in interview. You know, even as crazy as I think you're going to see the owners talk in interviews about a battler, it's just one where there is not going to be reconciliation. So I feel like there's not news on that front besides kind of Smack hinting at the fact that he feels like Easy lacks those things like respect and integrity, which is kind of some, you know, powerful words in itself. But I don't think it was a shocker if I told you beforehand these two are not going to be on the same page anytime soon, that you would see that any other way. There was also a section on a couple other topics. The Norbs lawsuit, I don't really got, that's settled, done with, you know what I'm saying, whatever that is. And then you had the Hip Hop is Real topic, which I think is one of the other big checkpoints in here, talking about how Knowledge couldn't get in the building at Gnome 14 in Orlando, so effectively kind of banning Hip Hop is Real, at least from that event, getting into the venue. And I can say, if you know, as someone that watches all of Hip Hop is Real interviews for Let's Talk Battle Rap, they're a pillar in the culture, and give us a ton of quotes, you know what I'm saying, that you can report from. So I'm always watching every interview. And it's been straying to kind of, you know, a lot of URL critique on there for a minute, which is absolutely no problem with. You know, you have to know when you do things like the Danny interview and some of those asking, consistently asking about maybe the more controversial topics about URL. You know, Beasley called them out in their interview saying that they didn't like those questions. But I would have to guess the straw that broke the camel's back has got to be a Spanish Harlem interview in 2024. I mean, that's just, you know, what more is that besides a hit job? Him talking about wave law or whatever the hell Spanish Harlem was going on about in there. And I think when you have interviews like that going down, it starts to look a little agenda-like. And listen, at the end of the day, the media is a humongous piece that URL needs to cover their events. But if you're going in to cover their events or just turn around and just consistently push bad on there, well, what is the point in me giving you the opportunity to get this content? Because there's still other media platforms, you know, 15 Minutes of Fame, the bloggers and themselves, when we talk about like the bigger bloggers in our community, like the Caps, the Piper Boys, the Unbiases, things of that nature. And then even, you know, the lower level bloggers, people on Twitter covering it. Like, there's going to be media, and at some point, if you're a big platform that's also negatively affecting us, right? Well, why would I positively affect, you know, you coming in here to get that type of content? So if you've just been watching what they've been putting up for a minute, like I said, a Spanish Harlem interview, I'm pretty sure maybe this ban was specifically because of that. But there has been a lot of anti-URL interviews, and at a certain level, at a certain point, you know, they're gonna stop. I hope that, you know, Knowledge and them are letting the building going forward. They do some of the best interviews in this culture. That, like I said, they are a pillar in it. But particularly with this situation, I can, if you've been watching Hip Hop is Real and even some of the interactions they've had with URL, it feels like this one has been brewing for a minute, which is why I'm not too shocked that it got to that point. The next part was Danny Myers was another question that was asked about because of his Hip Hop is Real kind of 40-minute StreamYard interview, and talking specifically about the trenches situation, where he said he was told if he backed out of the trenches card, he would receive, you know, demands that he had or battles that he wanted, and kind of hinting or saying that one of those is Loaded Lux. So then Tiger turns around, he asks Smack, like, about the situation, and Smack is almost like befuddled by it. And it's by far the funniest part of the interview, in my personal opinion, is him being like, what, Lux? Like, he said we said that, or something of that nature, and it was almost the reiteration of the question. Wasn't like, there was confusion then at that point, right? So it kind of fizzles out, and Smack's just like, oh yeah, man, like Danny ain't saying no shit like that, man, which is crazy, because Danny definitely said some shit like that. That's why the question's being asked. So one that you don't get information as clear, particularly as you may have had on the Easy or the Shine topic. But with this one, I will say, I can't see a world, I don't know, maybe Owner did, who knows, you know what I'm saying, but it does not too logical, hey Danny, don't do this Rosenberg battle and you get Loaded Lux. I find it very hard to believe that's how it went down. Smack even said himself, it's just not as simple as, even though it's a good battle, it's not as simple as you battle you or anything like that. We know how hard it is for a Lux battle to come together, and kind of the things that might be holding a Danny and Lux battle from happening, particularly Lux wanting to do it because of Danny's battle volume. However, I will say with that trenches situation, I feel like URL could have thrown more bail one way or another for Danny at the time. I felt like he's the one that took the biggest hit from backing out on that card. The top tier name on the card, up there with Swamp too. But, you know, Danny, what he symbols in terms of battling everywhere, the positive figure that he's supposed to be and symbol that he is in battle rap. So for him to have to back out of a battle like that, take all that heat, and he did just go to regularly scheduled programming. He battled down a lot. Eventually gets the T-Top battle on Gnome, right? Which is, he doesn't have that many big opponents left, so it's not like it's easy to just keep booking him in big spots over and over. But even if it was a tweet, you know, a space to throw him some bail, something, you know, they kind of at that point went dead silent, and I'll never forget that. I feel like they could have. Do I think the man was going to get Loaded Lux for this situation? No, I don't think that was ever for real in the cards. However, I do think they left Danny left him out to dry a little, and even though I think going and interviewing about it months later I think he made a bit of poor execution of how to go back, touch on this topic. I will always say that I have some sympathy there, because he was put in a tough position, and they probably could have did a little bit more when he was taking all that heat in the public eye view. And then they ended up asking about Ill Will and Big K wanting to, which is, you know, part of RB not being much of a thing anymore, which Smack, when kind of asked about, you know, he asked him when, like, what do you say about leagues that were supposed to be competing for #1 and aren't here? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, Smack's giving some sly answers about do the math, do the numbers. I don't talk, just like, you know, go show them what it is. Kind of showing like, hey, we're still here. We're always going to still be here. So throwing those shots at RB, which is only right. These two are going to throw shots at each other forever, or at least maybe forever has already happened with with what it looks like RBE is right now. But they asked him about Ill Will and Big K, and he kind of referred back to the Easy answer in a sense, where he's like, comes down to our morals and integrity, and speaking with the Easy, with the answer to Easy, even though it's the same answer either way, it feels a little less cryptic, because we know that there's probably not going to be any repairs there. With K and Ill Will, it's almost like you want a bit more of a specific answer, because it feels like, obviously we've seen Ill Will go on and off, URL on and off. Big K, I think out of any of those three, you know, Big K has a few battles he could do, with the twerk battle, with the rock battle, that people really want to see. So kind of want a little bit more of an answer there, to be perfectly honest with you. Not that, you know, maybe it's personal and you really can't get into like the deep parts of it, but it's almost, if you're given the same answer that you did for Easy, talking about morals and things of that nature, it makes me think it's got a bit of a negative connotation. And with those two, where it just seems like they were battling over there, with that done, they could realistically get pulled into URL. It's not an answer that you want to hear with those two names, just, you know, point blank period. Like I said, the RB thing about him kind of throwing some shade over there, which is, it's what you get to do with the current climate. When it was last year and URL was having their worst year and RB was having their best year, we were all part of that critique. And now you flip it, we're kind of seeing URL getting back into good standings, having a pretty solid year so far. And then RB kind of being just turned into the full circle at the moment. You know, it's just part of the game. I'm trying to think what are the topics that you go to from there. Oh, blocking battles, which is one that's always going to be asked. And this is one where they never give an answer that I like with this one, right? Because there's going to be people that don't like you blocking battles. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be people that feel like no matter what, there's no situation where you should be blocking a battle in the league that goes there, it goes there. And there's always going to be the argument on Smack side where it's like, hey, these guys are under contract. And if I want to pull my battler back, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is for our brand. They signed with us and they didn't go and get this checked out with us. So it's always going to be what side of the branch you fall on. But it's like they play it like, they never just say like, yeah, at the end of the day, battlers sign contracts with us, and if we feel the need to, bring them back in, or if we feel like that this is a battle wasn't checked out, it doesn't help our investment side of this, we won't do it. If they would say that, people aren't going to like that answer, but that is the business answer of it, and that's quite frankly what it is from your perspective. But this whole like, man, I don't know nothing about none of that, man, we know. We know. It's out there. You know what I'm saying? Some people think it's okay, some people don't, but that's just something that you got to stand on, because I don't think they're going to stop doing that if the situation was to happen again. So out of all the questions asked, that one, for me, answer-wise, is definitely my least favorite. And I don't think that's going to change. It's just how they choose to go about it, convincing us that they haven't recalled. So, I'll talk it to death, but that's my opinion on that one. And then they got into some more business. I mean, it's all business acclimated interview, but talked about YouTube and Smack kind of being up front once again, saying YouTube is just not monetizable for battle rap to the point that like we could continue the culture, like live off this as a culture, which now you're seeing more leagues talk about the demonetization. King of the Dot, I believe RB, ARP's thrown his opinion on it too. So it's just tough, and people are going to still want YouTube drops. It's free. I get it. And I even still want them to an extent, but battle rap is never going to go back to full-blown YouTube drops because the market has changed on it. You don't get paid the same. So that's out there. That's been out there for a minute, but that was reiterated, and then gets into some talk about battlers not bringing a return on investment. Kind of asked him, because like I said, Tiger was blunt in this interview. He even said, I feel like battle rap's kind of dead. You know what I'm saying? And he took the stance this whole interview of almost like a disgruntled like YouTube fan, which is a big portion of the community that has a lot of these complaints. A big portion of what we have here because of how long battle rap lived off YouTube. And then when he started saying that, he's talking about money, Smack gets into what I'm sure would be the most viral clip, the most talked about, saying, what money, man? Like, this isn't Monopoly money. You know what I'm saying? You got people asking for this and this type of bag, but can't bring that return on investment, and can only bring about 100 people in the building. And he gets to talking heavy. Funniest part, it'll be the most talked about, but I think it's the part that we know like least about detail-wise in terms of, what battlers are asking for this amount of money, which one of them is not bringing in the proper return on investment. Obviously, we're not league owners, but it's not easy, everything that goes into running an event. When you do just mentally start adding up production and then paying for the venue, possibly paying for travel and transportation to get everyone into the state over. We know battle rappers miss flights at that. It's not including the bag you pay them for the battle. So I always will reiterate, people do not know the business and numbers of it. Hell, I don't know the specifics, you know what I'm saying, in not most situations, right? So it's one of those things where if you don't know, you can't speak so detailed and passionate without really knowing even a morsel of the specifics that go into what runs an event and all the pieces you have to pay for to make it happen. So you're seeing a lot of people, I think, kind of being pro-Smack with that one, being like, it's not easy. And if you guys aren't bringing a return on investment, how can you ask for that type of money? But I'm not going to go too much into it because, like I said, it's hard to speak either way. We don't know what specific battlers are being referred to. Is this a top-tier thing? Is it a mid-tier thing? I think the market post-caffeine has just changed a little bit for everyone, right? I just think that when there was high five-figure bags in an abundance with how often you were getting booked, now you got to cut that schedule down to at least a third, right? Because caffeine fully industrialized battle rap in 2021. Got to bring those big bag prices down, and a mid-tier who would get like 6 or 7 plates in a year, maybe he only gets 2 or 3 plates now. You know what I'm saying? Because of the amount of events. Not that they're still the most active league, but they're not active to the point they're throwing 2 or 3 events a month. So when the market changes and people's demands don't, you're going to run into situations like this. But without knowing the specific battlers, unless it's any of the ones that were referred to early in the interview, I can't really speak to, if they're right in that specific situation with the battler or not. And that really covers most of the main topics. I'd say if there was one more funny thing, speaking once again to the bluntness of it, Tiger said, like, oh, y'all got Summer Madness coming up, man. Like Kings vs. Queens, King vs. Queens. Like, they're saying it's a bullshit Summer Madness, man. How y'all feel about that? Like, what a crazy way to ask someone about their card. And even Smack there was talking about, like, bullshit card, this and that. It kind of got at him. They had, like, friendly debates there at a point in time where, even when he said, Tiger said battle rap's dead, he's like, I haven't seen the same energy. He's like, you also missed a lot of events. I turn around, I don't see you at every event to be calling battle rap dead. And I think that's the bag, once again, that people want to see him get into. Battle rap is a competitive sport in a sense, and it's got some energy. So when we see the owners of it that talk, especially someone like Smack and what he means to the culture, to see him kind of get passionate about some of those answers, whether people agree or disagree, you're going to see this being called a better look just because of that passion, actually getting in front and standing on some of these answers. But that's my full thoughts here, you know what I'm saying, for the interview. I'd love to hear what your guys' opinion is. Do you think it's a good look or a bad look? And then, of course, for the topics, give me your response on any one of them, whether it's battler specific with the Easy, Shine, Danny, Hitman, Mook stuff, whether it's money specific, because, sadly, it's hard to get people talking about a bar for bar debating a battle, but they have everything to say about money that they have no idea is the amount that's being spent or where the fuck it's being spent. But if you have any opinions on that, please, this is the type of video I want to chop it up with y'all about all this stuff, man. But it's been J Smo Reviews again, y'all. As I said, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.